New tonight on KGW News, the Northern Lights put on a dazzling display with a chance to spot them in the Northwest. Plus,
the morale is the lowest I've ever seen it in my 23 years.
How TSA officers at PDX, still working without pay and hopeful the shutdown will soon end, are now facing a new threat. Then,
this is the most terrifying moment in experience.
A Hillsborough grandfather shares his story after spending weeks in ICE detention, why his case hasn't been resolved. And later, call it quite possibly the most heartwarming marine mammal reunion you'll ever see. But first, two breaking news. A cyclist struck and killed between Portland and Lake Oswego. The fatal crash shutting down Highway 43 just south of the Selwood Bridge for more than 3 hours tonight. Sheriff's deputies say it appears a man on a bike was hit by a car. The driver stayed on the scene, authorities say. Though no word if they will face any charges. The road reopened just after 9 this evening. We, of course, will update you as we learn more. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco. For the first time tonight, we're hearing from a Hillsborough grandfather detained by ICE for nearly a month after he was arrested by agents who were apparently looking for someone else with the same name. Owen McCarty sat down with him and his family, who say their fight for answers, and you might say freedom, is far from over.
Less than half a mile from downtown Hillsborough, Victor Cruz stepped out of his truck and handed federal agents his work permit. Despite that proof and the fact he says they were looking for someone else, those agents took him into ICE custody.
When I heard them talking to each other, is he him, is he him? And they go, it has to be him, it needs to be him.
Victor Cruz recalling the conversation between federal agents along this road October 14th. Then another later that day between officials at the ICE facility in Portland.
There is nothing on him. He has a clean record. What do you want to do? Do you want us to let her go, or do you want us to take it to Tacoma? And the lady said, I don't want anything to do with him. Just do whatever you want.
So hours after his detainment came the transfer to the Northwest ICE Processing Center.
That's when the nightmare begins.
The Hillsborough grandfather, who's lived in Washington County for decades, described the facility as cold and harsh, cells crowded with dozens of people.
They keep saying that there is only criminals that they are arresting. They keep saying that only bad people is in jail, which is not true.
Victor telling us that in the face of so many unknowns, he leaned on his faith.
Since the moment that they arrest me, I didn't see nothing but miracles in my case. Because a week before I was released, I was going to be deported.
KGW has asked the Department of Homeland Security about Victor's case. Officials have maintained that he was not arrested by mistake, writing, "Those who are in our country illegally have a choice. They can leave the country voluntarily or be arrested and deported."
This is a big deal.
Victor's release 3.5 weeks later came with conditions.
Our lawyer put in a habeas petition and it was granted, and we went and paid the bond in full. What we didn't anticipate is him coming home with an ankle monitor.
It weighs too much that it hurts so bad in your ankle.
His family says the uncertainty continues.
He is still in removals proceedings, so they're still actively trying to deport him.
But they say the fight for justice also continues.
They checked my record with my fingerprints, and they found nothing on my record. They had the power to let me go, and still they arrest me.
Victor's first check-in with immigration since being released is on Thursday. Now he and his family are hoping to get some more answers, from the reason for his ankle monitor to the whereabouts of his ID and work permit. In Hillsborough, Alma McCarty, KGW News.
Developing this evening on the coast, we are learning more about the possibility Homeland Security could open some sort of ICE facility near the city of Newport. City, county, and state leaders say they are still working to confirm those details, but they are worried about the toll this could take on people in their community.
This is a big tourism and fishing industry, and something like that might have detrimental impact to those impacts to our industries.
Well, Newport leaders tell KGW they were first made aware of a potential detention facility after a third party filed a letter of intent to rent several acres near the airport for federal use. It is the same location that housed a Coast Guard rescue chopper for nearly a decade, one that was recently moved to Coos Bay. Officials say they have not been able to get any answers from Homeland Security. City Council is now set to hold a public meeting tomorrow evening at 6 to discuss what they do know. We plan to be there. We'll let you know what comes out of it. Okay, let's talk about the shutdown now, with Republicans, including President Trump, hopeful it could be over by this time tomorrow. The House is set to take up a temporary funding bill already passed by the Senate tomorrow afternoon. We talked today to Oregon's sole Republican in Congress, Representative Cliff Bentz, the congressman, telling us he plans to vote for the bill and puts the blame for the shutdown squarely on the shoulder of Democrats.
Well, it'd be difficult not to blame the Democrats. We here in the House passed the continuing resolution before the end of the fiscal year, and so the Democrats certainly had every chance to pass it in the Senate, and they chose not to. So shutting down the government is squarely on the Democrats refusing to vote to continue keeping the government open while we debated the issues all of us are concerned about.
Well, while far from perfect, Ben says the proposal includes $170 billion to fund SNAP benefits, along with money for air traffic controllers and a guarantee that a health care bill will see a vote, at least a vote, in December. It's been the main sticking point for Democrats who are trying to keep health insurance premiums from jumping when Affordable Care Act subsidies expire at the end of the year. Well, speaking of the shutdown, let's bring in Catherine Cook now, live at PDX. Catherine, we have talked extensively about flights being cut, the FAA says, because of a shortage of air traffic controllers. But worth noting, TSA officers are also still working without pay.
Yeah, David, the TSA's union president tells us this is a huge struggle for agents, and it gets tougher every day. Meanwhile, they keep showing up to work here at PDX, helping travelers whose flights have not been canceled. Veterans Day and day 42 of the government shutdown. Across the U.S., 20% of TSA agents are veterans themselves, and they haven't been paid in over a month. Transportation officials now requiring dozens of airports, including PDX, to cut flights by 6% to make up for lean staffing.
I was nervous to come back. So far it's been okay, but I know that these people here are also working without pay and keeping us safe. So
Morale is the lowest I've ever seen it in my 23 years.
Rebecca Wolf is a TSA agent and union president. She says when agents call out sick, it's often because they can't afford childcare or gas money. She says many are looking for side jobs to afford working as an agent.
And they're being asked or forced to work overtime in some situations, and they're still not getting paid. It causes more stress and chaos on top of chaos.
Wolf says some agents who've called out have been threatened with AWOL, absent without leave, which could mean discipline or job loss when the shutdown ends. Passengers at PDX are now thanking agents with donations. These bins are for non-perishable food items.
It's so heartwarming. These are the American citizens supporting us when Congress should be supporting us.
Many travelers are amazed by agents' continued service.
They had to check my bags, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, they're still doing everything the way it should be done in spite of not being paid. That's awesome, and I actually respect that.
And as the shutdown continues, Wolf says what TSA agents appreciate most is simply patience and gratitude.
Say thank you. Look them in the eyes. That means so much more than anyone can ever understand, is say thank you for being there.
and they'll continue to be here tonight and in tomorrow. By the way, the FAA says that up to 10% of flight reductions will be in the books starting this Friday. And there are already 16 canceled flights out of PDX or incoming flights tomorrow. So if you have travel plans, definitely check flypdx.com or your airline app before heading out. David, back to you.
Always good advice. And I got to say, from personal experience, Catherine, we have some of the friendliest, most efficient TSA agents in the country. Appreciate your reporting. Well, tonight, SNAP benefits remain in a strange sort of limbo after the Supreme Court extended an order through Thursday that blocks the government from having to pay out full November benefits. It came with no explanation on the court's thinking, but in theory could give Congress enough time to reopen the government. Meanwhile, drivers lined up for more than 5 blocks in Northeast Portland today, waiting for nearly 2 hours to get a box from the Love Our City food pantry. Volunteers and staff filled food boxes with basically anything and everything healthy they could get their hands on.
I feel kind of ashamed having to come up here and ask for food, but at the same time, I am so grateful because we get things up here that I can't afford to buy.
Oregon and Washington paid out November SNAP benefits following a court ruling last week. Leaders have encouraged people to use the balances on their cards and have vowed to fight any federal effort to take that money back. All right, skies across the country lit up tonight with the reds and greens and perhaps purples of the aurora borealis. These are some of the views of the northern lights from Virginia to Minnesota, and it appears some of you were lucky enough to see them here as well. Matt's here with a first look at some of those stunning images. Good to see Matt.
Hey, that's right, David. You know what? There were limited views here in the Northwest, but at least we didn't get completely shut out by the cloud cover. This one from Bart Disher and Camas. You can see the reds and the greens there, and with the clouds as well. I got another one for you here from the Oregon coast. This is Depot Bay from Barb Nelson, one of the better views we saw in Oregon. See the great purples and the reds and the greens down toward the horizon. Then we go to other parts of the country, and this is where it really got good. This is from Fort Collins, Colorado. Jennifer Haynes sending in this picture. Brilliant red sky, great horizon there to see. Another one for you. This one from Aspen, Colorado. Liz Curtin sending this one in. Just a brilliant red sky from up in the mountains there. And perhaps my favorite one comes from northeastern Iowa. That's all right. Dina Gross sent this in of the silhouette of the heifer. I mean, it had to be a very moving experience even for that heifer, right? I mean, cow had to be over the moon with that. Because even with the, anytime you get the northern lights, you really want to milk the experience as much as you possibly can. So now, why was it red, you may be asking? Well, red auroras are rarer than other colors because you need a really intense aurora to make it happen. Oxygen molecules very high up in the atmosphere are very scattered, and they absorb the light, and then when they re-emit it, it's the longer wavelength of the red colors. David?
Matt Zafino running it up with the cow puns today. Thanks, Matt.